I'd like to call this Saline City Council meeting to order. If you'd please rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Okay, members present this evening are myself, Mayor Marl, Council members Gearbaugh, Rhodes, McClellan, Tahar, and Dillon. And of course, Councilman Seal will be absent this evening. From city staff, we have City Manager Campbell, Clerk Royal, Treasurer Bennett, City Superintendent Engineer Rubel, and Police Chief Rennick. For the rest of you who are in the audience this evening, I would encourage you to sign in the back to my left. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to approve the agenda as submitted unless there are amendments.
So moved.
Moved by Dillon as submitted.
Correct.
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman McClellan. All those in favor of approving the agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it and the motion carries. At this time, the chair would entertain a motion to excuse the absence of Councilmember Seal.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Tahar. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. All those in favor of excusing the absence signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. Ayes have it and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to the one presentation of the evening, which is the Saline Main Street Quarterly Report. I believe we have our Main Street Managing Director, Riley, here. Riley, the floor is yours. Thank you for being here.
No problem. Thank you. Yes, my name is Riley Hollenbaugh, and I'm the Executive Director of Saline Main Street. As you can see from the first quarter report in front of you, it's been a very active and productive first quarter for us. One of our main goals this quarter has been working with the city and the Saline Chamber as we prepare for construction downtown. We've been working with a lot of the businesses, and a lot of our different groups have been working on different plans on how we are going to plan for this, so it should be great. As you can see from our organization, we've had 1,575 volunteer hours this quarter, which is valued at $34,650 in labor. We've continued to expand and maintained our volunteer and corporate sponsorship program, and we've raised this quarter $15,216 at this point. We have many new basically corporate sponsors, and we've continued our volunteer sponsorship program, which is great for us at this point. You guys will be seeing a lot more of our new sponsors very soon on our program, so should be great. Our annual celebration was March 2nd. It was a great party at Maggiamo Italian Grill, and it allowed us to recognize many of these great volunteers that work for us throughout the year, and to recognize even city council and other volunteers that continue to work. I know Heidi was one that was for the student poster project, was recognized for that. So, with business development team, we currently are working on a downtown vacant properties inventory. With this, we are looking to potentially reach out to potential investors for downtown. Right now, we're in the middle of revamping our website, and this is going to be one component of that revamped website, is a specific area for real estate within our downtown district, so that when developers are looking and researching our town, they're going to go to these websites, and we want to make sure that that's on the website. It's going to link to real estate, link to, the value of the property that they see, and information like that. So it's going to be very important information. And a lot of DDAs in Main Street have that on their website at this point. The business development team also prepared a guide for business and property owners to prepare for construction that was passed out before, probably about 2 months ago, just to kind of get them ready to prepare their buildings, prepare their businesses, and hopefully they're listening to that, I hope. Last week we did have a structural engineer as a part of these business workshops come into town, and she did examine 5 buildings that participated. The businesses and property owners personally hired Cheryl Early was the structural engineer, and we provided a partial reimbursement, and we will actually have reports back on all 5 of those buildings. There's definitely little concerns that these property owners know about before construction, and they've been addressed that. So it was very productive, and we get a lot of information out from that. Currently, with the business development team, myself and John Olson, the chamber director, are working on a business toolkit. for all the business owners in downtown within the construction zone, and this toolkit is going to have all the information that they need throughout the year. So basically, it's going to be the timeline, project information, contact information. We're going to have event calendars in there, where events are going to be, not just Main Street or chamber events, community events, along with other information that they need to have for preparing for construction. So we hope that is very productive, and we should be getting that out very soon. So, promotion. This quarter, we did have Winterfest. It was one of the most successful Winterfest buttons years. We've actually distributed more Winterfest buttons than we ever have in the past. So it was great to hear from the businesses how many people actually used them this year. And it was a great weather. We had a large attendance, and we had a very large amount of participants in the activities. Myself, my team did win the broom ball tournament, so I was pretty excited about that. I think we might get a trophy made this year, and then we'll start it. Little tradition every year. So, Ladies' Night Out was just completed. We had around 200 plus participants. It was a chocolate walk. It was a great night. Little weather problems, but overall it was fun, and we had some good feedback for that event, and we hope to expand on that event. As you can see, our marketing team for the construction, you can see the new logo that came out of that group down there at the bottom, and that is the Pave It Forward campaign that we will be promoting throughout this whole construction. You will probably be seeing a lot more of that in the future, because that did just get approved by us there. So hopefully we have a lot of great activities, new activities, and new events that you will be seeing throughout construction, and we're going to make it really fun to come downtown, because it's going to be a fun year to come downtown with all the stuff we have going on. Along with that, a design. We've been working with the city on the construction streetscape, which has been great, working with the design team that the city put together. And as you can see, we actually completed a design service with Deborah Johnson, our design specialist with Michigan Main Street in the State Historic Preservation Office. And you can see the Maggiamo Italian Grill drawing in front of you. Next week, we'll be meeting with Donna Southwick, the owner of 106 West Michigan Avenue, to complete another design service. This is one technical service that we receive from Michigan Main Street. We get about 3 of these a year. This is one community that hasn't been very competitive, which is good, but it's not good, because we want it to be competitive, and we want to use 3 of these every year. So that's one of my main goals this year, is to use all 3 of those design services. So we're getting there, yeah. Yep, that's it from me. Any questions?
Very good. Thank you, Riley. Any questions for our Main Street Managing Director? No? Very good.
Good.
Thank you for your
See you
time.
guys next quarter.
Appreciate it.
No problem.
Moving on from presentations, we come to the first citizen comment period. This is citizen comments on agenda items. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comment or question on an item that appears on this agenda. Comments will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested, but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments on agenda items? Please come to the podium.
Hi, my name is Liz Hartley. I'm a Saline resident. I live at 688 Wood Creek Circle. This is a kind of an agenda item. It's about the 600 Maple Road proposal, and this is for the Three Oaks development that I intend to speak about. I'm the mother of a 28-year-old developmentally disabled adult who attends Liberty Club, and I'd like to speak to you on behalf of her. So, a little history. In the late 80s, disabled adults living in institutions in Michigan were returned to their communities with the intentions that the supports would follow them. Our state also put lots of restrictions on group homes. And so it made it very difficult for disabled adults to live in a group home setting with all of these restrictions. So what the government forgot to take into consideration was that caregivers, parents, and guardians burn out, they age, and they die. So it leaves many disabled adults without the support or housing options that they so desperately need. So I'm asking you to please reach down deep, and think about the fact that Saline is a perfect community for these developmentally disabled adults. You would be giving disabled adults a chance to live and thrive here. You would be giving the guardians, caregivers, and parents peace of mind, such as me. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. We appreciate your comments.
Thank you.
Are there additional citizen comments on agenda items? No, then we proceed to the consent agenda. The following consent agenda will normally be adopted without discussion. However, at the request of any citizen or council member, any item may be removed from the consent agenda for council discussion.
Move to approve as submitted.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes to approve as submitted. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. Hearing no discussions, all those in favor of approving the consent agenda as submitted signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-77. This is proposed ordinance number 782, an ordinance to change zoning. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the March 24th, 2016 memo from Assistant Clerk DeHaan to accept or not to accept the Planning Commission's recommendation and to approve or not to approve proposed ordinance number 782, an ordinance to change the zoning of lots 17, 18, 19, and 20 of the plat for Sauk Trail Business Park, City of Saline, from I-2 Industrial District to SPA 1, Special Planning Area 1.
Move to acknowledge receipt, accept, and approve.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilmember Gearbaugh. Mr. Rubel, do you care to make any comment on this?
This was an item that staff has worked on with the applicant since early last year. And, I'm on the wrong item, sorry. The lot rezoning was considered because it went through the Code Review Task Force, went through the Planning Commission for the hearing, of course, and is gained favor along the way in all those organizations. So I presented the same materials that was presented to the Code Review Task Force and the Planning Commission.
Very good. Thank you, Mr. Rubel. Are there any questions for staff? No questions for staff? Any comments? Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes.
When this item came before us at the Code Review Task Force, it was pretty apparent that we were not going to have any success or very limited success in trying to sell those parcels under the current industrial zoning because that was not a portion of our economy that was expanding. And so it was recommended from that group that we change into this special zoning, special planning area. Those lots are right along Michigan Avenue, and they're much more valuable under some other commercial retail zoning than they are under industrial. So I'm going to support this, obviously.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem. Are there additional comments? Mr. Gearbaugh, please.
I agree. I mean, when we originally created Sauk Trail, I was on council for that, and the idea was under that aspect, we were an industrial state, and at this point in time, industrial development has basically left the country. I think it is an opportunity for us to probably invest with a better way of using the property, but I think we're going to be very consistent with how we look at this. It's not just something that we're going to have to turn over as a shopping center. I think we have opportunities with this type of rezoning that allow us the benefit of using it and benefiting it the most for the city.
Thank you, Councilmember Gearbaugh. Additional comments? Well, let me just thank Mr. Rubel for his remarks, but also thank Mayor Pro Tem and Councilmember Gearbaugh for their comments. As many of you will recall, those of you on the dais and those in the audience, this has been a priority for me for some time now. In fact, I articulated a desire to change the zoning of these parcels in one of my State of the City addresses. I think this is a good change. I appreciate the work that's been done by the Code and Ordinance Review Task Force as well as the Planning Commission. I think this will make these parcels more attractive for sale and for development and add some flexibility. So I'm very enthusiastic about this and again appreciative of all the efforts that have been made by my colleagues both on this body, Planning Commission, and on the Code and Ordinance Review Task Force to bring it here this evening. So thank you again. If there's nothing further on this item, we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes, seconded by Councilman Gearbaugh, to acknowledge receipt, to accept, and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-78. This is State of Michigan and Federal Local Bridge Program. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the March 28, 2016 memo from DPW Director Fordyce and to approve or not to approve the resolution to facilitate application for funding from the State of Michigan and the Federal Local Bridge Program.
Move to acknowledge receipt and to approve.
Thank you, Councilwoman Tahar. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. Mr. Campbell, do you want to take the lead on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We have a total of, technically speaking, 3 bridges and 1 concrete box culvert in our city that are city responsibility. And one is the Monroe Street Bridge. It was built in 1984. And so we have a regular frequency of folks to come down and take a look at them. And so this one is showing some wear, and there's no weight restrictions or anything. But if we continue to go and check, that could be in its future, but that's our hope that it won't. We won't even have to have those discussions. But this item is asking for support through resolution from City Council to submit an application for the local bridge program. It's state federal dollars that pays 90%. So this would be the conceptual cost estimate is $600,000. The city's match to that would be $30,000. And then in addition to that, there's currently money being budgeted in the proposed fiscal year 17 budget in the capital improvement program of $34,000 for the design engineering, which is not it's not an eligible item to be funded through this grant. So any further questions, I'd be happy to do my best to answer them.
Very good. Thank you, City Manager Campbell. Any questions for staff? No? Seems pretty cut and dry. Subsequent discussion. Ms. Tahar.
Yes, thank you. I would just say that I think this is excellent management and good use of looking ahead and foresight and planning for the future as opposed to waiting till something fails and then desperately trying to fix it. So I really I approve of this approach, and I'm enthusiastically in support.
Thank you, Councilwoman. Additional discussion? Then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Councilwoman Tahar, seconded by Councilwoman Dillon, to acknowledge receipt and to approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-79. This is 2016-2017 Design Construct Professional Service Agreement. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the March 30th, 2016 memo from City Superintendent Engineer Rubel and to accept or not to accept the Evaluation Committee's recommendation to award the Design and Construct Professional Services Agreement for Austin Drive and part of Old Creek Drive to Fleece and Vanderbrink for the amount not to exceed $88,790.
Move to acknowledge receipt and to accept.
It's been moved by Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes to acknowledge receipt and to accept. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. Mr. Rubel, do you want to go over your memorandum of March the 30th, 2016?
Thank you. The principal for the project from Fleece and Vanderbrink is with us tonight, and I've asked him to come up to the podium also to make an introduction.
Please.
Mr. Mike Labadie here has many years of experience. He's worked with other firms who have performed work in Saline, and most recently he's performing work with Fleece and Vandenbrink. And so Mr. Labadie here is also to answer any questions you may have regarding his firm. Just to cover the memo in brief, as you know, we use a qualifications-based selection system. There's 4 categories. We balance out experience, similar projects, work plan, and of course the fee proposal. And usually with those 4 categories, you usually find one of the proposals who which rises to the top much better than the others because they have a good comprehension and the value of the work that's being proposed per the work plan in our request for proposals. So this year, the best proposal that we could see, that's Jeff Fordyce and myself, was the proposal from Fleece and Vanderbrinks, and they scored high in all 4 categories. We didn't necessarily use a point system because we have a method now where we take more precise, detailed notes and we weigh those notes, and they basically, would have converted to a number, but we didn't feel that was necessary to just come up with a number sequence like a report card, because we saw the value in their work plan as well as the other 3 categories. The project involves programming, design, some studies. We have an obligation to submit a program package to MDOT for review and perform preliminary plans and final plans, and also then perform the project inspection to some quite stringent requirements of MDOT and the Federal Highway Administration. Fleece and Vanderbrink has good experience in that field. We see in their proposal, they've actually received 3 Asphalt Paving Association and MDOT awards in the last 3 years for similar projects. The project does involve $400,000 of federal funds, so we would pay a lesser amount, of course, in the participation. The project, as described, would be Austin Road, reconstruct, as well as that part of Oak Creek Drive that runs from Henry Street to just north of Oak Brook Court. Both of those were in the early 1990s, 1990 and 1992 respectively. And the lead engineer in this just happened to work for the firm who designed those 2 firms, and he has actually retained some of those records and took them with him at the time that the company was being dissolved. So we're very fortunate to have the teamwork here with Mike Labadie and Dan Cabage on this project, and the benefit is they have a great proposal too.
Very good. Would you care to make a comment? We welcome you here this evening.
I would like to say thank you. That's the first thing. I've known Gary for a long time, but I think it's difficult to get in and do work with the city of Saline at times. You have to be good. So we lucked out and we did a good job in this one. So we also had an inside scoop because our lead engineer does have some past history on these very projects. So again, thank you very much.
Very good. Well, we appreciate your time and appreciate you being with us this evening. Are there any questions for the applicant or for Mr. Rubel? Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes.
2 questions if I could. One, will this be what is commonly referred to as a mill and fill, or is it going to be something more extensive than that?
Well, it's more than a mill and fill as far as MDOT's concerned, because they have stringent standards in pavement design, pavement replacement, looking at the utilities, and also addressing the components of the ADA, which we will, and we're also required to consider putting in bike lanes. So we will do all of that and bring it up to the standards that MDOT requires for federal aid projects.
But it's primarily surface work. We're not going down into the
Right.
subsoils.
Correct. Although we do, on the field work, they will find structures that need repair because the structures age worse than roads sometimes.
And then my second one is I wanted to advocate for the bike lanes. I don't know when or how that decision gets made, but I think it's critical that we continue to provide that facility.
Correct. It is possible easily on Oak Creek Drive. Austin Road is more of a challenge because it's only 24 feet wide.
Yeah. Okay, thank you.
Thank you, Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes. Additional questions? Mr. Gearbaugh.
Just real quick, Gary, what other roads do we have that would be potentially qualifying for this type of grant from the state right now?
Well, the only other 2 that qualified are actually in the programming plans. We're going to make an attempt to design or get the program package done for the Industrial Drive project, Federal Aid Urban System, because it qualifies for that, whereas the Maple Road section didn't get enough points. But for that one, we can actually apply for Category F funds.
Okay.
So probably 18, 19, and then maybe 21, you would see those projects rise up for programming final and funding.
So this is the most beneficial one at this point in time, based on our current ratings of our roads and everything in the
Correct,
city.
correct.
Thank you.
And these were next in line on the TIP program through Watts and SEMCOG.
Thank you, Councilmember Gearba. Councilwoman Dillon?
Just for clarification, this is Austin Road, not Austin Drive.
Correct.
This says Austin Drive. They're separate streets.
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I just want
Let's
to make
see.
sure that people reading it don't
Yeah.
realize that.
Thank you for
Yeah,
that clarification.
thank you.
Here's the difference.
Additional questions or comments? Well, gentlemen, thank you very much. Appreciate it. Any subsequent discussion? No, then we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes, seconded by Councilwoman Dillon, to acknowledge receipt and to accept. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-80. This is Lee Bear Water Main easement and acceptance of water main. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the March 30th, 2016 memo from City Superintendent Engineer Rubel, and to accept and approve or not to accept the easement of a water main, and to accept and approve or not to accept, excuse me for stumbling, the 12 water main as a public transmission line.
Move to accept and approve in both situations.
Thank you, Councilmember Gearba. Is there a second? Was that McClellan?
Yes.
Thank you, ma'am. Mr. Rubel, do you care to comment on new business item 16-80?
Just for the sake of the public viewing and those in attendance, Lee Bear built first phase of its very large campus area, and they plan an open house, groundbreaking, not a groundbreaking, but an open house in late April. Part of the project involved the installation of a 12-inch water main, which actually forms a segment of an east-west connector between Woodland and Maple, so it fits right into our grid system. Once the other phases are added and the 12-inch eventually is connected to Maple, we'll have a nice 12-inch interconnecting main in the system, and it's really helped the reliability in that area. So work was done per the site plan and also per the MDQ standards for the water main permit, and so it was tested, inspected by G2, and the easement document then was prepared by our city attorneys and signed by Lee Bear, and it's ready for approval by the city council and acceptance as a water main, and we can put it into service, and then the phase one will have water.
Thank you, Mr. Rubel. Any questions for our city superintendent engineer? No? Gary, thank you. Any subsequent discussion on this motion? Well, it's been properly moved by Gearboss, seconded by McClellan, to acknowledge receipt and to accept and approve and accept and approve. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to new business item 16-81. This is MMI engineered purchase of city property on Woodland Drive. This will be a motion to acknowledge receipt of the March 31st, 2016 memo from City Manager Campbell, and to approve or not to approve the terms of sale for parcel number 18-12-30-430-021 as outlined in the letter from D&G Building Co. dated March the 28th, 2016, and to approve and to authorize or not to authorize the mayor and clerk to sign purchase agreement in a form approved by the city attorney and city manager.
Move to approve and to authorize.
Thank you, Councilwoman Tahar. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Dillon. Mr. Campbell, do you want to go over your memo of March the 31st? And then I also believe we have two guests with us this evening, Paul Larson from MMI and Sean, is it? Is that correct? John, I apologize. The property owner. We appreciate both of you gentlemen being with us this evening. Mr. Campbell, please.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. So some of you may recall about a year ago, almost to the date, staff brought a question to council about a small little piece of property, just a slightly over an acre, that's not buildable, that's part of, in the Reddy's Park, kind of actually I guess for lack of a better term, a buffer, right along what I call our little S-curves, across the street from Teff Park. MMI was proposing to do a significant expansion, at the time talking about possibilities, and their proposed expansion would as proposed, with the current amount of property they have, would exceed the 30% maximum lot coverage for structures on a lot by about 11%. So 30% is the max, it would be about 41%. So trying, as we do here at city staff, we try and solve problems when we can. And so a suggestion was brought up of, well, this little piece of property, again, not a lot of value to the city, not being buildable and such, that possibly the sale of this little piece of property to assist, to add that if the property owner, which is D&G Building, that MMI leases from, that if they purchased that and added it to their current property, that would reduce the, instead of exceeding the lot coverage by 11%, would only about 5 or 6%. Either one would need a variance, but certainly a lesser variance would be much more palatable. So at that time, last April, when I came to council, we had come up, staff had come up working with the assessor's office to come up with a value for this parcel, this little piece of property. And it was determined the value of $11,177. Council consensus was that was a solid, they were in agreement with that. Since then, even before then, existing is a gas main easement. That was not taken into the evaluation process into consideration when the assessor's office put the initial value on this property. So to hold that thought, so now we have an offer now from D&G Building to move forward with this expansion for MMI. Their offer is to purchase that property at $7,000. As staff evaluated this assessor's office and the treasurer's office, myself, determined that the $7,000 was a fair value because of the gas main easement located on the property. Again, just adding another roadblock, if you will, to actually building something on that property. So again, taking kind of devaluing it even a little bit more. So with those details, our staff is recommending that council sell this parcel for the $7,000. And if, as Mayor Marl alluded, we have folks, Paul Romano from D&G Building, as well as Paul Larson from MMI that are here. If you had any further questions from them for talking about the proposed project and expansion.
Before we entertain any questions for the city manager, I do want to provide the petitioner an opportunity to speak if that's their wish. Again, we have Mr. Larson, Mr. Romano with us this evening. Gentlemen, do you care to make any comment at this time?
Good evening. I'm John Romano with D&G Building. I really don't have any comments. Just want to thank you guys for the opportunity to come before you for this opportunity that we have work with MMI on purchasing this piece of land. And like I said, I really don't have anything else to add other than thank you for the opportunity.
Very good. Paul, would you like to make any comments?
Very similar to John's comment, thank you very much for considering the offer, and we appreciate working with the City of Saline on this, as well as having good support from MEDC on this proposal also.
Paul, for the benefit of not only council but also for the audience, would you mind taking a few minutes just to talk a little bit about the $5.6 million expansion that you're planning and how it's going to impact the business and ultimately the community? Because it's really important and more significantly, it's pretty exciting.
Great, will do. Thank you very much. Total addition will be about 50,000 square feet plus 5,000 square feet for office. We made a commitment to MEDC to add 47 new jobs over the next 3 years. Currently, we're basically added 25 jobs since we filed the application last year. On a yearly basis, that means about $1.5 million in additional payroll for the local area. New construction cost for the building itself is estimated to be about $3 million. MMI is committing to make another $2.5 million of leasehold improvements into the facility. Mostly it's going to be used for a distribution center and also for some assembly of parts that we got from a major truck manufacturer. We have received some incentives from MEDC, as also some tax abatement from the city of Saline also in this proposal. So we're very excited about it and looking forward to the building coming in, and we're looking for additional business coming in the fourth quarter of this year as a result of it.
Excellent. Thank you very much. Questions for the petitioner or for our city manager? Ms. Dillon,
I
please.
just wanted to just reiterate that this berm of property is not going to be included in the building. It's going to stay just raw land. It's just more still a buffer. Correct.
Well, yeah, I would invite Paul actually to, but yes, I mean, it's virtually.
I just want people to understand that we're
Sure.
not building over that.
Correct, we're not,
Right.
they would not be building over the easement, which they couldn't anyway if they
Right.
wanted to.
Any other questions, comments? Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes?
I'm going to support this motion, and I'm pleased to do what I can to assist the local business in their expansion. Thank you.
Additional comments? Well, gentlemen, I want to just thank you for your commitment and the additional investment into the Saline community. It means a lot. It was a pleasure to work with you more than a year ago when you were considering this. Glad that you made the ultimate decision to invest in this community. I think you'll learn in the years to come that was a good call, a shrewd decision. So thank you again for your commitment and your flexibility in working with us. And I understand that assuming this motion passes, they have to go to the Zoning Board of Appeals. Is that correct?
Correct, as Mr. Romano's proposal reflects, there are some due diligence, obviously, they would need to get a variance and then their site plan approvals and such. So that would be, and that will be reflected in the purchase agreement from the city attorney's office.
Very good. Just want to make sure we're clear on next steps. Again, thank you, gentlemen.
Thank you.
Okay. If there's nothing further, we'll proceed to vote. It's been properly moved by Councilwoman Tahar, seconded by Councilwoman Dillon, to acknowledge receipt, to approve, and to authorize. All those in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed, say nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries unanimously. We move on to the discussion portion of our agenda. First up is Commission, Committee, and Task Force reports from council members.
Youth Council elected, selected the Youth of the Year for the Chamber, Saline Salutes, and it's Aiden Carrickner, I think is his name, is how you pronounce his last name. So I just wanted to congratulate him and thank the Youth Council for all their hard work.
Very good. Thank you, Councilwoman McClellan. Additional Commission, Committee, or Task Force reports. Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes.
On behalf of the Environmental Commission, I just want to remind everyone that the last Saturday of April will be the electronic waste recycling event, which will be held in the parking lot right here in the Saline City Hall. Starts at 9 o'clock in the morning, goes until 3. It is a free event. However, you may be asked for a donation by some young folks from the Fifth Corner Teen Center who will be in attendance. Thank you.
Additional Commission, Committee, or Task Force reports. Councilwoman Dillon.
Okay, I just wanted to remind everyone that the Substance Abuse Coalition is going to be holding a presentation on Wednesday, April 20th at 10:45 in the morning at Saline High School. The public is invited. Its topic is relationship and choices and how they impact our lives. All high school students and all middle school students will be seeing this presentation live, but the public is also invited to attend, and there will be seating for the public in the auditorium of the high school.
Very good. Thank you, Councilwoman. Additional Committee, Commission, or Task Force reports. How about reports or other announcements? I just have one that I failed miserably in terms of bringing this up at our last meeting, which would have been timely and appropriate. You'll recall that we honored Penny, Wayne Clemens' daughter, and her family at our last meeting. Of course, presented her award posthumously to recognize her father and all his many contributions to the Saline community. And the weeks prior to that, Mr. Gearbaugh and I and some of the members of the Historic Society had been in contact about renaming the Depot Trail in honor of Wayne Clemens. And Mr. Gearbaugh can correct me if I'm wrong about any of this, but it seemed as if that there was unanimous consensus from the Historic Society Board of Directors to do that. I believe it will take a resolution of City Council, and then Mr. Gearbaugh, if I'm correct, the Historic Society has made a commitment or will be making a commitment to purchase some sort of plaque to denote that. So I just wanted to bring everyone up to speed on that. Again, I apologize that I didn't bring it up at the last meeting. It would have been appropriate and timely, but I think it's a great way to honor Wayne. And, you know, I feel that our recognition of him was validated because he has been chosen by the Saline Area Chamber of Commerce he will receive posthumously, of course, the Lifetime Achievement Award, which I think is just marvelous. I can't think of a better recipient. So I'll work with the clerk and the Historic Society, but we will have something on an upcoming agenda for you to consider and digest. Okay? Mayor Pro Tem Rose.
I'd just like to comment as the primary creator of the Depot Trail back when, I'd be more than happy to see that name changed over to the Wayne Clements Trail.
Very good. Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Any other reports or announcements? That's easy enough. Well, let's move on then to 600 Maple. As you all will recall, and most in the audience will recall, we had a work meeting at our last meeting to discuss 3 separate proposals for 600 Maple Road. And at tonight's meeting, I'm looking for consensus from the group on how best to proceed. I will, if you will indulge me, I will begin. I want to thank everyone who attended the last meeting and who is here tonight because of your passion for your passion regarding the sale and development of 600 Maple. As almost everyone is aware, that is a parcel that the city has owned for a great number of years, and it has been vacant and listed for nearly a decade. So it is a priority of mine and a priority of this council to see that parcel transition from public ownership to private ownership. And I'm glad that we had 3 distinct, very different proposals to consider and digest. I want to begin first by talking a little bit about the proposal that was submitted by Matt Zahn and others regarding an arts and cultural center in the city of Saline. I personally believe that is a marvelous idea, an idea and concept that deserves vetting and further exploration. And I have had a subsequent meeting with Mr. Zahn to discuss that and many other issues. And I'm willing, in my capacity as mayor, to work with him and any other interested parties to identify an appropriate location and develop a plan, a strategic plan for financing and executing and realizing that goal. Again, I think it's just marvelous. However, I don't believe that it's appropriate for this parcel, and I'm not willing to hold on to this parcel. Personally, I'm not willing to hold on to this parcel for several years for something that may not ever come to fruition. So while I appreciate their interest and passion, and while I note that I'm willing to work with them, I don't believe that proposal is conducive for this space. Livonia Builders, there's no doubt, has an outstanding reputation. I'm happy that they're developing the Houghton School property, and I'm excited by the progress that they make on a daily basis. That's going to be a wonderful addition to the community. My own personal preference regarding 600 Maple is that the city opt for the plan that was submitted by 3 Oaks. It is a creative option for a community, for a population that often does not have many good options. And as a community, and I want to be very clear on this, as a community, and I'm speaking of the entire Saline area, not just the city, we need housing options that cater to a larger population than just the mobile and the affluent. And I think the development plan that was submitted by 3 Oaks will ultimately be beneficial to the community. I think it's conducive. I think the proposal is conducive to that parcel, the parcel in question. And the applicant has shown a willingness and a flexibility to work with city staff and with legal counsel. So again, my preference is that we opt for the proposal that was submitted by 3 Oaks. I note, again, for the record, that Livonia Builders has an outstanding reputation, and if it's the consensus of council to go in that direction, I think that will also be good for the community. But my personal preference is for the Three Oaks proposal because I think it addresses a number of issues and a number of deficiencies in this community. I do want to note, however, that if the consensus is to go with Three Oaks, I hope that the applicant, the developer, will work with Livonia Builders, because I know that Livonia Builders has expressed the option and a willingness to purchase the Escott property, which is adjacent to the parcel in question behind some homes on Maple. I don't know if that's feasible to develop that property, but I would be I would appreciate the fact if you would try and connect with Livonia Builders to see if there's a possibility of developing some sort of shared entrance to that site, if there is still a desire to acquire and to develop that parcel. Okay. With that, I'd like to open it up for the group, because obviously what's important is not my one opinion, but the opinion of the entire group, and I'm interested in hearing what my colleagues think of this important issue. Can I begin with you, Mr. Rhodes, and I'll work my way to Gearbaugh, McClellan, and then I'll jump back to Tahar and Dillon. Mr. Rhodes.
Thank you, Mayor Morrow. You could not have said it any better. My feelings mirror yours exactly. I am hopeful that should the Three Oaks development go forward, that there would be an opportunity in the future to provide additional housing other than the 4 units that are currently slated for those folks who would need them. And further, that there might be an opportunity again to work together with Livonia Builders so that gentleman can move forward with the construction on an adjacent piece. So I am pleased to support Three Oaks.
Mr. Gearbaugh?
One of the concerns when we were trying to sell this land was that there was no takers, and Liberty and Three Oaks came forward and worked with the city and worked with our attorneys and understood the problems with the site, but also answered our questions that we had and concerns of developing it. Could they do it? Can they do it? They did their due diligence. We pushed back hard on aspects of what we would like to see happen there. They came forward. Their designs are what we anticipated. I think it's no different than some of the other developments that we've looked at, namely Monroe Street, that we have an anticipation that there's certain needs that need to be met in the city, and that the Three Oaks development was going to do that, and especially the achievement that, in my own heart, at this point, because they've worked so due diligently on it, that I feel that they have put the cost, invested money into it at this point, and have really worked with us to achieve what we think is a good aspect for our city. Also, in the event of how we see financially coming out of it, potentially the city will have a better lead on this at this point in terms of just the sale of the property. But I believe that the Escott property could also be developed as it is now, and that was one of the aspects of the questions I asked during our work session, that a combination of those can still happen. It just won't happen all by one developer, but I'm supporting Three Oaks at this point.
Thank you, Councilmember Gearbaugh. Mr. McClellan?
Yeah, I again will mirror what the mayor's comments were. I would love to see the Art and Culture Center in town, and I mean, being a member of the Arts and Culture Commission, I think that that's a project that is kind of near and dear to my heart, but I agree that this property is probably not the best place for that, and it still needs some development before that can go forward. So I think I would support the Three Oaks project. I think it's a wonderful opportunity for the community to provide a needed service to these young adults, and just a great opportunity for Saline to be a leader in this kind of new model of housing. So,
Thank you, Councilwoman. Ms. Tahar?
Yes, and I also agree. I'm supporting the Three Oaks proposal. I believe that the Three Oaks proposal is a benefit to our whole community in a way that the other two would not be. I think the Livonia Builders proposal is also a very solid proposal and would be a great addition to the community, but the Three Oaks proposal, I think, increases our heart and also increases our diversity. And I value it for that reason. I too, like Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes, would hope that the phase 2 of that development might include additional housing for developmentally disabled adults. I do want to take the opportunity also, however, to raise a concern that I have about any development of that property, and that is the issue of pedestrian safety. There is no sidewalk on that side of Maple, right adjacent to the property in front of several, there's a gap in the sidewalk. And the pedestrian crossing across the street, there is one, and it's marked, but there's also a hill on Maple. So if you're heading north on Maple from Michigan Avenue, you come over a rise, and I think that the crosswalk needs to be greatly enhanced for pedestrian safety at that point. Ideally, also, we would have a completed sidewalk on the east side of Maple, but at a minimum, I think we really need to upgrade that crosswalk extensively.
Thank you, Councilwoman Tahar. Councilwoman Dillon.
It's hard to add something when you're last. But I just want to say that I share and I echo the words of my colleagues, that I think that Three Oaks offers something that Saline needs and wants, and I will be supporting the Three Oaks endeavor.
Very good. Well, I think, Mr. Campbell, consensus is pretty clear. You'll work with the developer, with the applicant, to formalize a sales agreement that will come back at an upcoming meeting for review, discussion, and hopefully for approval. Obviously, there's many additional steps that will need to be taken. I think Ms. Tahar raises some legitimate issues which hopefully can be resolved during the Planning Commission stage of this development if it progresses the way we anticipate it will. But unless there are any other questions, concerns, or comments from the dais, it's clear that we have consensus that the city manager can work with the developer and bring something back when it's appropriate to do so. Okay? Very good. Thank you. Moving on then, on the discussion portion of our agenda is the dedicated left turn signal for north and for those that are north and southbound on Ann Arbor Streets at Michigan Ave. You should have all received a letter in your mailboxes that would have been delivered as part of your council packet from Joan Roth regarding this issue. I have also talked to former Councilmember Roth about this issue, and when I received her letter, I instructed the clerk to let her know that we would be adding it as a discussion item at an upcoming meeting. I should also note, for those of you who have been around for a couple of years, this issue was discussed early on when MDOT first announced that they would be reconstructing Michigan Avenue in 2016. But Mr. Campbell, can I turn it over to you? You have an email from Lynn Kirby, who's been our point person with MDOT, and you can sort of give us an update, and then hopefully council can empower you to connect with Jim and Joan to give them a status report.
Sure, thank you, Mr. Mayor. As the Mayor alluded, I had asked our MDOT representative, Lynn Kirby, out of the Brighton Traffic Service Center, TSC, as far as details on how to go about, even to consider having a dedicated left turn signal. As you can see from her response is that the Brighton Traffic Service Center doesn't have that authority, so they would have to forward this request if council would want them to, or want me to do that. They'd have to send it to their Lansing Traffic and Safety Division, where they would conduct a study. Talks about traffic volumes, delay, safety, and the impact of adding additional left turn phase. And you may recall, as far as disadvantages, this was talked a little bit during about a year and a half or so ago, when council had entered into the study when we were looking at the reduction of lanes on Michigan Ave and talking about one of the, actually I think this very item came up as a discussion item. And the challenge is you can't create more time, right? So there's only 60 seconds in a minute, only 60 minutes in an hour, 24 hours in a day, et cetera. So you have to take away time, or in my vernacular, steal time from another segment, another leg of that light, to add it to the dedicated turn signal. And so if you add if you put a dedicated turn signal there for 25 seconds, that's 25 seconds that are going to be subtracted from, and I just grabbed that as a discussion topic, but you're going to take that away from another leg or divide it amongst the other legs. So potentially, as you can see from Ms. Kirby's comments, that it would increase the delays, especially in the big concern being the morning traffic and then the afternoon traffic at the peak times. And then, of course, because of the increased delays, then oftentimes, traffic, as we say, is often like water. It seeks its own level. And so if it gets backed up on one road, it'll go off to another side street to try and get around. So those are the concerns that MDOT has and that the staff has. However, if council would like staff to certainly request this, we'd be happy to do that. And again, but also Ms. Kirby notes in her email is that they're not sure how long it would take, and there's no promises or guarantees that the result would be even during this project. So that may or may not, if we're warranted to do this, to have that dedicated left turn signal, it may not be able to be incorporated into the current project.
Questions for our city manager regarding this issue? Mr. Rhodes, do you have one?
Yeah, well, more comment, I guess, than question.
Well, we can transition to comments.
Yeah, if that's all right. I don't want to get in front of anybody here, but when Councilmember Roth brought this item up, I was in support of it. I agree with his concerns, and MDOT is supposed to take into consideration the local community's needs and desires, and also the complete streets approach. Complete streets includes pedestrians, safety for pedestrians, and if we are going to have more downtown residences and more businesses and more activity in our downtown, there's going to be more people using those crosswalks. And if one stands in front of, say, Breck and Grill, and you watch the people who are in their cars, the drivers who are waiting to turn left, they are not looking at the crosswalk. They are trying to see past the people in the left turn lane on the other side to see if they can go across or not. And mostly, they can't until the light turns red. And so there's a delay that happens there anyway. And as far as I'm concerned, if we delayed through traffic on Michigan Avenue by 30 seconds, but we made it safer and more comfortable for our residents and our visitors to use that crosswalk, I think we should do that. I think we have that obligation to our people. And I support pushing back to MDOT.
Okay.
And I understand that it might not happen as part of this construction cycle this year because it's too soon, but I think it ought to get on the table.
Okay. So you'd like to ask the question?
You more than ask the question.
Advocate, okay.
Yes.
Very good. Mr. Gearbaugh.
Yeah, I agree with Mayor Pro Tem Rhodes, because I think part of the issue with that is we need to look at that, but since we're moving forward with the project as it is, but I would like to see all the aspects that we're adding to this project at this point. We're putting in the mid-crosswalks. There's a lot of other aspects that are coming in, and so once those are in place, then do a study to assess it. If we do it concurrent with the current project, that's fine, but to say that we would hold up the project after we've committed everything to it can't happen.
Right.
And I don't disagree that we need to look at that. It's just at this point in time, we've already kind of spent the money. I don't want to spend a whole bunch more money at this point in time and have that project held up.
Okay. Ms. McClellan?
I agree with Dean.
Okay. Ms. Tahar?
Yes, I agree. We should ask the question, definitely.
Okay. Ms. Dillon?
I definitely agree, and I think that if I recall, we've talked about this long and hard, and what sort of took this off the table was an animated slide that we saw from URS, correct? That showed traffic, that by putting that in there, traffic backed up on North Ann Arbor Street, and there was just a big line of red. And that scared us all off, and we moved away from it. So I think that maybe looking back at it now, at the intersection itself and not just at the traffic, that we should consider it.
Mayor, just one comment.
Please.
Part of the thing, too, is also the trade-off. Now that we're going to have a dedicated left-hand turn lane at Harris Street, that was one of the other pieces of the pie that was going to add time, too. So the hope is that traffic will somehow potentially slow at some point because we've added another lane. So there could be some trade-off from the perspective of how we are now handling each one of those intersections, plus that aspect that you had mentioned that, yeah, the backup was going to happen on North Ann Arbor Street. And traffic, as Mr. Campbell had said, would route itself through the residential neighborhoods, which is more of a concern, I think, even from that perspective.
I have no issue with asking the question to MDOT. And I think it's the unanimous consensus of those who are present this evening. If there are no objections from the dais, in addition to asking the question, Mr. Campbell, I would appreciate if either in the form of an email, a phone call, or a letter you communicated with Jim and Joan, let them know what the consensus of council was, but also to make it clear that we have no illusions that we're going to get a quick answer to this. In fact, in my experience, these things can take a significant amount of time, and I think that's being generous. And also, based on what Dean says, because I want, or Mr. Gearbox, excuse me, because I want to be very clear on this, we're not holding up any aspect of this project while we ask the question. I think we need to be very clear on that. Okay? Does anyone disagree with that approach?
I don't at all, but, you know, every step is the right direction.
Sure.
You got to start the trip somehow. So this is the start.
Okay, very good. All right, well, there's nothing further on that issue. We'll move on to our last discussion item, which is the Police Department Quarterly Report. Chief Rennick?
Well, I'm kind of like Miss Dillon here, but being last, and I'm the last person to get you out of here, so I'll talk quickly if I can. I was tasked with providing a quarterly report from John Hess when he did the department evaluation, and so I provided a memo to Mr. Campbell and for City Council, and I'd just like to go over that very quickly. And I broke this up into sections. The policy and procedures, as you're aware, the last council meeting you approved Lexipol, and that process is in progress. We have already received the manual in the form of an email. A questionnaire was filled out and returned, and I'm actually starting to look at some of the policies and procedures. So hopefully by the next quarterly report, we'll have some additional information on the policies and procedures. As far as communication, just want to point out some of the things that we've done since the report was put in place. We have roll call meetings now at 8 o'clock, 4 o'clock, and midnight for each and every shift. There's a weekly informational update sheet that goes around all three shifts, so making sure that all shifts are hearing the exact same information. We have staff meetings on a regular basis now for the sergeants, and those items that are discussed with the sergeants are then passed on to their respective shifts as well. And we also had a department meeting back about 2 months ago now, so all employees could hear the exact same message at the exact same time, because what happens a lot of times, especially in police departments, one thing gets said, and by the time it's passed around 3 or 4 times, it's not quite the way it came out. So department meetings are very well to handle that kind of a circumstance. The department audit, I just want to let you know that we're re-auditing the stuff that was put in the evaluation, and the radios have been audited, and that is now filed with the clerk's office. And we're beginning work on the firearms and other audits within the department, and hopefully by next report as well, several more topics within the police department will be audited. Training, just to let you know that we are continuing with the Police One, and that's that online training course, and it provides great training for the officers, very quick videos that they can watch, keeps them up to date, and it's also all MCOLS approved, which is good for their ongoing training. And then we're in discussions with the Washtenaw Community College and with the Southern Michigan Criminal Justice Training Consortium to provide training for our $302, which would give us a bigger bang for our bucks. We provide a small amount of our money, and then we're given discounts for all kinds of training. So we're looking forward to that as well, and those talks are ongoing. And hopefully, within the next quarter, I should be able to report which consortium we joined. If not, maybe possibly both of them, depending on what the cost would be. And then finally, I'm very proud to say, Mayor, in your State of the City address, you were very adamant about increasing staffing levels within the police department, and we did a little bit of reconfiguring of our schedule and some manpower reallocations. And so as of a couple of weeks ago, we now have 2 officers, a sergeant, and a dispatcher on every shift. Thank you.
Very good. Questions or comments for the chief?
And
Mr. Gearbaugh, please.
just real quick, are all positions are filled at this point now?
All positions are filled. Only took 3.5 years.
Thank you.
Excuse me, yeah, except we have not promoted the 4 sergeants yet.
Okay.
Yes, but all positions are filled. That would be an internal, there would not be a hiring from the outside when that's done.
Glad to hear that.
That was it, Mr. Gearbaugh?
That's it.
Thank you, sir. Ms. Dillon?
I just wanted to ask quickly, did you have any questions about the audit, your departmental audit? Were there any inconsistencies?
There's a radio that's missing. We're not sure exactly where it is, but we're trying to hunt that down. The fortunate thing is it's been turned off, and we're able to do that just by making a phone call, so it's a useless brick at this point in time. Nobody could use it for anything else. But that radio is, we're not exactly sure where it is.
And the training, you'd said the training programs, is that for anyone in the department? Are those live trainings? Or are they?
The 2 training consortiums,
Yeah, the ones that you said providing an overall training program.
Yes, Washington Community College, those would be physical training, and the Southern Michigan would be, and there's 5 or 6 counties that are involved in that. And yes, those would be trainings that the officers would go to. Those would not be computer.
Awesome. Thank you.
Additional comments or questions for the chief? Chief, we appreciate the report.
All right,
Thank you
thank
very much. If there's nothing further under the discussion portion of our agenda, we proceed now to our second public comment period. Under the Open Meetings Act, any citizen may come forward at this time and make comment or question to City Council. This public comment period will be limited to 3 minutes per person. Anyone who would like to speak is requested but not required to state his or her name and address for the record. Are there any citizen comments? John, please.
John Olson, Director of the Chamber of Commerce. Just as a real quick on the left turn lane, I had a business downtown for a long time. One thing, we could put a sensor so that it doesn't activate if it's not, so you don't sit there and have an empty light wasting time. The other thing is, I've always noticed from when you're coming north, the cars come out from behind the left turn lane, as Councilman Rhodes suggested, and so people have to watch that, and they can't watch the crosswalk. They just don't. And so that's where we've had, it seems like that side's the one that we've had a lot of problems where people get bumped. And then additionally, I wanted to remind everyone that on April 22nd, we are going to be having Saline Salutes, and our panel has picked the winners for that, and we are very excited and hope to have everyone come. I think it's very important to honor our citizens, and this is an event in which we can do that. So I hope everyone will attend. You can contact the chamber for tickets, and we have moved it this year to the senior center, so we feel that'll be a little bit more intimate environment. And but Chef Musto will still be bringing the crew to come down and cook for us. So.
John, we appreciate your comments. You want to take just a second, because you added some awards this year. Do you want to list the award and who is receiving it?
If I can remember them all, okay.
I might be able to help you along the way. So you've got...
we did the Orrin Parsons Award, which is a new one this year to honor our military, and that has gone to Tim Driscoll. And we have our Lifetime Achievement, of course, which I was actually shocked because when it was originally sent in, I thought he must have already gotten that because you can't win it more than once. And we looked through the list and he hadn't. I was shocked to see that he hadn't. So I'm very glad to see, and his daughter's very happy that he has received this award. We have our first responder. We thought that was important to honor them, and maybe appropriately it's going to be Officer Dave. Who doesn't know Officer Dave? And the last one is the Citizen of the Year, and I think that was Wendy Beardsley.
Yeah. And then, of course, as Councilwoman McClellan mentioned,
Yes.
we have a Youth of the Year as well.
Yep,
So.
and we're very excited, and we'll be having a little reception for them privately, as we always do beforehand, and then we will release them to the crowd.
Very good, excellent. I think it's a great group. Whoever was on the committee that made the decision, I think. Chose
We're always
wisely.
very careful to get a cross-section of
Good.
citizens, so it's not just, the chamber picking it, it's a cross-section of our citizens that do
Excellent.
select this.
Excellent, thank you, John. Additional citizen comments?
Good evening, Mr. Mayor and Council. I am Randy Clark from Salem Township. Just a quick introduction. I am a candidate for the Michigan House seat being vacated by our good lady Gretchen Driscoll. I'm sure you all know. I'm a lifetime area resident, small business owner. I currently serve as the treasurer of the South Lyon School Board, which serves Salem and Northfield Township. Over 30 years of experience on various committees and commissions and local government, so I know what it's like to sit in your seats. I went to U of M and Eastern Michigan. I have a business degree. Mary and I have a son and a daughter, both graduated from college, got their careers going, and thank God they're out of the house. Gives me the time to do this. I hope to be around the area as much as I can. It's going to be an exciting campaign season this summer. I made it down to the MDOT open house. That was very interesting. I'm really excited to see your Main Street project. That looks like it's going to really turn out nice. I also was very interested to hear about the Substance Abuse Council. That's kind of near and dear to my heart. I advocate for that in our school board. We have a program in place, and I wish it was more effective than what it is. We're working very hard on that. But if you have any questions, be glad to take them, or I'll be available after the meeting. Thanks.
Very good. Thank you for being
Thank
here,
you.
Randy. Appreciate it very much. Additional citizen comments, please.
I just want to, this is really near and dear to my heart, and so if I cry, I'm really sorry. Thank you so much for your support on this 600 Maple Road. You know, I lived here for 10 years, moved away and came back, and this is why. Thank you for embracing our young adults with disabilities. And that's all I can think. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Additional citizen comments? Please.
Hi, I'm Pat Raby, and I live at 6979 Suncrest Drive. And I'd just like to thank the council also for accepting the Three Oaks project. It's really great to see the people here supporting it tonight, and Bill Godfrey, and thank you for all your consideration. And we're really excited to get some disabled people living in Saline on their own. And thank you very much.
Very good. Thank you, Pat.
Linda Klenzar, 7239 Hunters Ridge Court in Saline, and also speaking on the 600 Maple. The significance of this is that these people have worked for years to find a place for their adult offspring. And when you grow up, go through the schools, know your bankers, your grocers, your entertainment options, your schools, your library, it's very nice to be able to stay in the community where you grew up. So we thank you very much.
Thank you, Mrs. Klenzar. Additional citizen comments? No? Is there any other business to come before the Saline City Council this evening? I do want to note we appreciate everyone coming this evening. I think I speak for the entire group. We applaud your passion and your dedication to this cause. And I have to say, and for anyone who has served on a school board or a local government board, it's always nice to have people come up during the public comment period and say something nice about you and the decisions that you make. That's not always the case. So we appreciate that very much. If there's no other business to be brought before the Saline City Council this evening, I want to note that we have additional meetings on the 18th of April and on May the 2nd. Work meetings beginning at 6 p.m. on both dates to discuss our upcoming budget, and then a regular meeting at 7:30. We've already excused the absence of Councilmember Seal, so at this time the chair would entertain a motion to adjourn at 8:43 p.m.
So moved.
Moved by Councilwoman Dillon. Is there a second?
Second.
Seconded by Councilwoman Tahar. All those in favor of adjourning signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Opposed say nay. This meeting is adjourned.